Hello, welcome and welcome back. This is Jacob and today we are gonna be continuing the narration and character voice acting for the Path of Life story. Alright, part 2, which means the usual, but before we do so, as always, to anybody who bumps into the voiceover through this very episode, you can find the entire playlist for this and other Abyssal Hunter storylines, all in neat order as of chronological release and chronological order in the description of this video, so click down there, enjoy, and thank you very much. I have also linked a couple of other bonus playlists, which are mostly Seaborn related down there, so enjoy those if you want to see more on the Seaborn and learn more about them, mostly from IS4 stuff. So yeah, enjoy. Those stories are especially depressing. But yeah, thank you very much, enjoy, and have fun. And speaking of, thank you guys very much for all the likes and comments that you leave on these parts as always. Previous part had a couple of very interesting discussions, especially about the Aegirians, their tech and stuff like that. I saw a couple of interesting things. As always, I read all of those comments over time, so thank you for providing me with interesting food for thought, and very appreciated. And also, one comment that I saw, I think it appeared immediately on the first day with which rattled my brain back into position. Because of the current Let's Play of Reavers, my brain has been tied with, if I see anyone in a toga, I think immediately Greek. I have no idea if I said it during the previous part. I can't confirm right now from the top of my head. I definitely said it at some point, maybe during the raw recording of when I was reading through the thing for the first time, before recording for the episode, of course. I think I said Greek at some point, somewhere. If I did, apologies, I meant Roman. My brain was just so hard set on Greek because of Reavers. So apologies, but yeah, thank you for saying that they are pretty much just Romans, because yes, they are pretty much just Romans. Aegirians are very philosophical Romans, and I find that fascinating. And yes, of course, why would my brain think that these guys are Greek? Because we already have Greek. They are Minos. We haven't seen the Minos yet properly, and I hope we will one day. But yeah, Romans, and very fascinating so far, and as you will see today, we are gonna be doing some very interesting dives, pun intended and not intended, into quite a lot of interesting history, I would say. Let's put it this way, a very personal history with something. But more on that later. Before we do so, let's do the quick recap of the previous part. For those of you who want to skip it, as always, the timestamps are all down below in the comment section, in the pinned comment. And yeah, let's do this. So, on the previous part, we began our story pretty much in the same little town where we left off in the Stultifera Navis story. But this time around, it's sometime later, and the doctor has arrived, meeting up with Skadi. And after a brief conversation, our focus shifts towards the other two Abyssal Hunters, to Specter and Gladiia, meeting up with Kal'tsit as they re-emerge from the sea after a quick little jaunt and exploration down there, reporting their findings. We hop then over to Saint Carmen and Irene, who get joined by Jordi at the lighthouse, as the three of them get pretty much greeted by a giant flying fleet of drones/ships from the nearest Iberian city under the sea, which is Milliarium, as one of the drones approaches them, displaying a giant holographic display for what seems to be audio only, essentially, but the message can be clearly heard, and it's a message from the, essentially, the governor of the city, the Council Clementia, as she delivers a message which is essentially an open invitation to the Iberians to come down to Milliarium, as the Aegirians are building a waterway essentially towards the shore, and they are inviting them for some diplomatic conversations. Obviously, the team has already been decided, which will be sent down there for diplomacy, which will consist essentially of Kal'tsit, the Doctor, the three Abyssal Hunters, Specter, Gladiia, and Skadi, and of course, Irene and Jordi will be accompanying all of them down to Milliarium. Ulpianus is obviously also in this story, of course, and he is doing his own little mission, as it seems that he is riding around with Rocinante, but he is inspecting the Seaborn nests that are thrown about the seabed around Milliarium, and his focus is on finding out what is happening with the nests and if potentially other Seaborn firstborn are close to awakening. Meanwhile, arriving down in Milliarium, we see quite the sight with all of our people as they are witnessing the culture and the architecture, the technology, and everything else that is happening down there, being thrown aback a tiny bit. But we also get to see new characters. We get to see Blandus and Secunda. One of them, Secunda, being the free recruitable 5-star character from this event. More on that later. As they are discussing the current investigation into the disappearance of certain scientific individuals throughout the city. Jordi, in the meantime, and Irene meet a individual by the name of ABYSSAL, who invites Jordi to a private talk, essentially in the Sophon Theatrum, while Irene goes to essentially go and meet the patrol of the city and see if she can help out with any kind of investigations or help needed in the city, considering she is currently a former Inquisitor and might be able to help out if need be, which would also benefit her to learn more about the Aegirians. Meanwhile, the Doc and Kal'tsit, together with Specter and Skadi, are enjoying a sweet little jaunt through the city, as Specter and Skadi are essentially just showing the Doctor around the city. Meanwhile, Gladiia is meeting up with Clementia in private, as they are having their own little discussion about all things matter, and Irene finally meets up with Secunda as she approaches her and first is trying to send her away, but essentially picks up on Irene and invites her to come along for the investigation into the disappearance of one of the scientists. At the apartment of the scientist, they analyze all things that are present and decide on further matters. Back at the Jordi and ABYSSAL team, they are in the Sophon Theatrum, where they are witnessing a tribunal that is being held in that day, as the Abyssal Hunters are being essentially put on a debate between them and the city of Milliarium to figure out if they are trustworthy or not. In their defense, the individual by the name of Blandus steps up to defend them and tell the people of the city that the Abyssal Hunters are not a danger to the city, and that he can essentially adjust something like a gene that is built into them that is keeping these Seaborn cells at bay. Essentially, it seems like the Abyssal Hunters, despite the fact that they have Seaborn cells in them, and they are strengthening them, of course, the cells will never essentially have time to fully take them over. The gene manipulation that they have going on in them essentially is keeping the Seaborn cells at bay. It's slowing the transformation down quite a bit, but that specific gene does require maintenance essentially through their technology, and if it's not being maintained, then it could backfire. But everything is still in order, as it seems the 5 years that they've been away from the city hasn't really damaged that gene sequence that they have in them, and Blandus can use one of the old laboratories for the Abyssal Hunter project to do some quick maintenance on them and pretty much just put them back in working order. Almost like machines, but not. Meanwhile, the Doctor kinda sneaks off into the very far back of the Sophon Theatrum just to observe the debate that is going on, and is being joined by Ulpianus, as he sits down next to the Doc, and they are having a brief little discussion. As the two of them are observing and talking, in the meantime, Blandus does kinda have a feeling that he spots someone familiar to him in the theater and looks up towards where the Doctor is, even though the Doctor immediately upon noticing that not just Blandus but also a couple of the other present Iberians turn their heads towards themselves, immediately looks to Ulpianus in a bit of a panic, but Ulpianus is gone, and it's only the dog present. And yeah, the debate ends with the Abyssal Hunters being declared innocent, and that is where we left off last time. So then, let us continue with today's part. Today we are going to be going on from where we left off, of course, which is from stage number 3 all the way to the before scene of stage number 5. So then, let's begin. Stage number 3. Titled Like the Marine Snow. When the blood of our brethren and the flesh of the Seaborn become mixed in the water, only our will keeps us human. Let's begin. Flashback.
Good hurry. Caulerpa Archaeosphaeridium? Here? Who else in Milliarium is cultivating endangered seaweed? Hypnea fenestralis, Halimenia fimbriatus, Palmaria purpureus. Wait, the color of this Sargassum pennata, I cultivated it myself. Why are you on the streets? It's too dry. You'll die. What happened here? Did someone do this? Where are you migrating? Is there something, wait! They're gone? This pipe... This is, what's going on? The rumbling... Is the city moving? Something's moving. Who's there?
The vacuole on the Seaborn inflates merrily. Flashback end. I hope I'm not interrupting anything.
Not at all. Lucille and I were just performing regular inspections and maintenance on the city's unit framework. Still no sign of Tulia? Come on, Lucilla. It hasn't been that long since we made the report.
I can tell you care about her. Did you mention getting into any trouble recently?
She isn't one to look for trouble. I can't imagine her offending anyone.
What you say certainly fits her profile. Did she ever talk to you about the Waterway program or beacon data?
No. I wouldn't say we're close exactly. We talk from time to time, but she's more of a loner who prefers to work on her own stuff. Wait, is she a suspect? Sorry, maybe I'm making her sound suspicious. But it's probably just stress. There's been fighting almost every day in the 6 months that Milliarium has been away from the home territories. Everyone here is on edge.
The Church of the Deep continues its attempts to sabotage the Waterway program. We've eliminated many cultists over those months. And until they were exposed, they appeared just like any of our countrymen.
But she'd have no reason to...
Well, to be honest, I've never quite understood why she chose to join the Waterway program.
What do you mean, ma'am?
You already know that she used to work at the Institute of Ecological Art, right? The IEA moved to another city when this one evacuated its original position and received new battle orders.
Right, and she had the chance to go with them to continue her work, but instead she chose to... Sorry to interrupt, but could you explain more about this evacuation you mentioned? You remember, don't you, Lucilla? You were working on the dome at the time, so you had the best view of the whole thing. Yeah. It was one of Aegir's largest volcanic power stations, feeding countless laboratories, and Milliarium was responsible for its construction and defense. The city was parked beneath the power station. Through the dome, I could see its red glow illuminate the ocean for miles. The heat it generated attracted many different creatures. It was the largest endangered plants reserve in Aegir, and the ideal environment for Milliarium's ecological art to flourish. Then that light turned dark. Seaborn? Yeah. A year ago, swarms of Seaborn arrived on the ocean currents, and Milliarium ordered an emergency evacuation. Without the natural environment to support it, the Institute of Ecological Art, like other related institutions, was forced to relocate. But there was a full legion in the city. We could have retaken the power station. War orders for the Waterway program had just arrived. Milliarium was in fact being strategically redeployed. I came here with the legion after that. The lives of so many of our people were changed, including Lucilla. By the way, I transferred from the dome to groundwork because I was afraid of heights. Sounds, sorry, off topic. So you mean to say that Tulia might have had ulterior motives for joining the Waterway program? That is a serious accusation. I don't believe it either. No, I'm just telling you what I know. But it's undeniable that there are 100,000 souls in the city, and not all of them are fully committed to the Waterway program. Most just carry on with their lives, not understanding the kind of path we're clearing out in the ocean. Even our Iberian guest here came to learn about the program, didn't she? Whether Tulia is linked with the Church of the Deep or not, the fact remains that she made an unauthorized copy of the data of the Waterway program. We'll have to find her to learn why. But Milliarium isn't that big. She'd have been found by now, even if she were hiding between dome layers or in the corners of the circulation system. True, she may well have already left the city, but we were unable to find her biosignature in the nearby waters. Nor were there any unscheduled ship movements at the port, and she couldn't have gone beyond our sensor range in just a few days using civilian deep water equipment. However, the city did make a short movement around 30 hours ago to receive the Iberian mission. Perhaps. Could she have left the city at the time? So, the Colombian scientist Kristen Wright broke through the barrier for the first time in more than 10,000 years. The hole she pierced hasn't completely closed, even after a year. Aegir's surveillance of the universe through this opening continues, and so far no anomalies have been detected. I tried to stop her, to no avail. We still have time, but it's running short. Ripping apart the electron clouds with a high-energy beam. We were not aware of an energy source on land that could support such a brute force measure. Her method came from the same place as Aegir's technology, prehistoric civilization. She had discovered sarcophagi beneath tree mounds that preserved that civilization's spark, and managed to obtain the trust of its custodian. Before leaving the home territories, I had not expected to find anyone with profound understanding of both Aegir and prehistory from the lands. You have demonstrated once again that there is still much about Terra we do not understand. Fins trapped in the depths lose their perception of light. Likewise, our nation must continue to explore, even if we can no longer support grand expansions. The Stargate, the Twin Moons, the Barrier, the ruins in the mantle. There is much on this planet that was not formed naturally. Our Voyager fleets, having traversed to the far side of the planet, have even detected highly unusual terrain concealed behind the distant dark fog. There the sea currents abruptly cut off, as though they had reached the end of the ocean. That is barely a hotbed that has long since cooled. The most important prehistoric relics lie in the Aegir's heartlands. You know this, Madam Consul. The prehistoric ruins beneath the seabed are a gift from the ocean to Aegir. They nurtured your civilization and have granted you power and knowledge far beyond the terrestrial nations. And with them, responsibility. As you say, Dr. Kal'tsit, responsibility. When did the land dwellers first call themselves human? When they lit the first fire with originium, built their first city with stone and mud? On land, self-awareness and identity were established naturally over time. Even today, humanity is often defined in the narrowest terms. For the Aegir, it was conferred. We were not the same race as the predecessors, but we inherited their identity as we inherited their mantle. Thus, Aegir was born with a responsibility to humanity. The Seaborn will not compel us to abandon this duty. On the contrary, they add to its weight. You are indeed the right consul for Milliarium, Madam Consul. Where is this coming from? Your temperament. As Aegir, you are patient and kind. But that does not diminish the arrogance in your thinking. That is to say, Aegir's arrogance. I do not believe our conversation about the hole in the barrier, the ruins and the mantle, and even the future of civilization itself are merely small talk to lighten the mood. Just as I do not believe Aegir will rely on passive solutions. After all, isn't Milliarium's department from its home territories a proactive effort to create a new line of defense? So my question is, Madam Consul, what is Aegir's endgame for the Waterway? I have already told Gladiia Aegir's answer, that which you would call arrogant. You have the right to know as well. There is much on this planet that was not formed naturally, and Aegir does not believe they are unrelated. Be they wonders like the Stargate and the Twin Moons, or calamities like Originium and the Seaborn, these phenomena cannot be random products of spontaneity. They must be interconnected in some way. To solve the Seaborn problem at its source and stop Terra's crises, we need to fully understand Terra, including the hidden secrets of the land. But those are for the future. If you simply seek my answer for what's at hand... My endgame for the Waterway is to ensure that hundreds of thousands of Milliarium's inhabitants and tens of thousands of penal battalion troops in Grand Faro live to see Aegir's main force arrive.
Distress signal. From the squadron tasked with beacon deployment at Nest 37. You're sharp. Saved me the effort of looking for you. Do you always come and go without warning? How much has Milliarium told you of the Waterway program? Thought you'd care more about the hunters. The Tribunal has demonstrated their innocence, and they are not alone. Besides, Gladia's return to Aegir and its conspiracies are of her own accord. Let's continue where we left off at the Sophon Theatrum. The war between Aegir and the Seaborn has gone on for more than 2 centuries, but both sides have set their sights on dry land almost simultaneously. The sudden migration of an entire species, and a change in direction for an entire nation. Perhaps deep down, they stem from the same cause. Sounds like you don't trust any of the Aegir's plans. I know more than I've told Gladiia. This extra knowledge forces me to be cautious about Aegir's past and future actions. But it's too soon for her to know, and not your place to know it all. Our only concern for now is the Waterway program. A path connecting the land and the sea. Neither that Doctor nor the Inquisition fully trust in this, or else he would not be here. Clearing the seas with powerful weapons to buy time for the main force from the home territories to arrive Aegir's warfare design is always simple and effective. But there have been anomalies in the city that we cannot ignore. The Church of the Deep? That consul is a formidable woman. During Milliarium's voyage, she has called many of the corrupted and thwarted their sabotages, while the two escorting legions have sustained far fewer losses than expected. Everything has gone well. Almost too well. Now a staff member in the program has gone missing at the most crucial stage. This is just the beginning. I'm looking into it, and will eliminate any potential threats. I can enter most places and evade the sea patrol's regular rounds with ease. But I fear the problem runs deeper. I would rather not barge into an important lab or the consul's Seaborn unless I have to. I'm not your messenger to the hunters, Ulpianus. You should work with Rhode Island. After all, we can help you move around the city. Rhode Island wants to work with me. And watch me, I assume. So be it. One more thing. Skadi. If you truly care about the hunters, keep a close eye on her.
$156, 157. I've never seen a port this busy. Are things not going well on the front lines? You're still in the mood for music? Why not? Soon we might be too busy for it. There we are, Captain Gladiia. You went to see Council Clementia with Dr. Kal'tsit right after the tribunal, right? How did it go? Well enough, but I was only there to make introductions. They had much to discuss, and I had no reason to stay. I did have a brief discussion with Clementia on the current plans for the Abyssal Hunters, though. Aegir's Waterway will open soon. Until then, the Hunters will fight alongside the two legions accompanying Milliarium. See? I was right. Uh-huh. I'd rather be out there killing monsters than sit through another debate. So, what's the mission, and when do we move out? The command structure and battle plans are pending discussion with the Legion commanders. Skadi? Hey, that's the emergency alarm, right? What happened? A Seaborn invasion? I'm Consul Gladiia. Status report.
Yes, ma'am. 2 squadrons from Legion 10 were sent to deploy the beacon at Nest 37 today, as planned. But we just received a distress signal. They were attacked by Seaborn on the way.
The Seaborn were prepared?
Unclear. The situation is still developing. The Academy of Technology hasn't had time to produce a report.
Are there any corvettes on standby in the port?
Always. You can claim one by logging into the terminal.
Thank you. Keep me posted about the squadron's coordinates. Once close enough, the Abyssal Hunters will disembark and swim into battle.
Roger!
Laurentina, with me. Skadi, you stay behind. Captain? Don't overthink it. The contact between land and sea is paramount. Kal'tsit can't be in 2 places at once, so I need you to keep the doctor safe. This is an order. Received. That's, Laurentina's group is embarking for battle, but they just came back. It has something to do with the alarm. The fleet deploying the beacon in S-37 was attacked by Seaborn, and they're going out to help. You know the Abyssal Hunters? I do. We had a brief partnership on land, facing challenges and battling enemies together, including the Seaborn. That's, impressive, given their temperament and fighting style. I'd go up and greet Council Gladiia myself if we weren't in the middle of an emergency. I haven't had the opportunity since they returned. Does everyone in Aegir know the Hunters? Of course not. But I once worked with them, and even aspired to join them. Someone from your team said you used to be a researcher. My expertise in genetic engineering qualified me for the Abyssal Hunter program. I studied under the head of the project, who was also the first Abyssal Hunter. At the time, few were compatible, and even fewer successfully underwent the operation. But he and Gladiia had already achieved spectacular results. Their most remarkable feat was a 3-day battle with the Seaborn in a hydrothermal vent that bought time for 2 energy survey cities to evacuate. The Seaborn evolved constantly. With the use of weapons strictly regulated, they were the safest and most effective countermeasure. I watched them leave and return every day. I watched them lie down in the regenerative gel, exhausted, waiting as I recorded the data, tested their functions and repaired their bodies. Those were the costs of victory people could not see. I'm not entirely sure what motivated me at the time, but one day I submitted an application to become a hunter to the Institute of Development Planning. I'd have done the same. What? I mean, I'd have wanted to apply myself. To see your mentor and everyone else risking their lives like that, nobody would want to feel that they weren't doing enough. You seem fit enough, and as a researcher you are beyond familiar with their functions and combat style. Wait, then why didn't you... Because my application was rejected. But why? I didn't ask, and my mentor wouldn't have answered. So you joined the Sea Patrol instead? Because it's the unit that works most closely with the hunters? Yes, and monitors them.
The corvette is ready for you.
Alright. Sorry, Irene. I shouldn't have bored you with my past. It's fine. Back to work. As the fleet battles the Seaborn, we must also locate the missing scientists for answers. The Sea Patrol's objective remains unchanged. As for you, Irene, you're staying with us. Wait, what for? We won't be in the thick of battle, but it's still dangerous. It's the Sea Patrol's duty to keep you safe. I appreciate it, Prefecta, but I'm good. I'm not afraid of the Seaborn. Every Inquisitor has Seaborn blood on their hands. Former Inquisitor, as I recall from your files. I appreciate your assistance during the investigation. Like I said, you're sharp and brave. But you didn't come to Aegir to fight. Go back and stay with the other emissaries. Are you implying that the war between Aegir and the Seaborn is beyond a land dweller's comprehension? Yes. Your concerns are justified, but trying to comprehend is why I'm here. There are many things I, as an Iberian, need to understand. Aegir, the Seaborn, true war, and everything that's happening in the depths of the ocean. The land isn't far from here. Aegir has only a single city in this region, but beyond it lies the entirety of Iberia. Don't worry, I don't intend to get myself killed at sea. Such maturity at your age. You must have a good mentor. From what I've heard, better than yours at least. Prepare a set of deep water equipment for Irene. Let's go.
Audio log number 13. In an unknown language at an unknown time. The reactor of a United Starline starship still burns so brightly. Since the atmosphere control center crashed, we've been shrouded in dull grey clouds. A radiant sight like this certainly lifts the spirit. To my pleasant surprise, Valeria was also on the starship. I discovered once she landed that she had come to bid farewell to her mother. Ever since joining the Stargate Modification Project, she has been completely absorbed in her duties. It was surprising to see her still concerned with worldly matters. If she still has a mind for such things, perhaps we might finally talk about that wedding that's been put on hold for the past 10 years. I soon dismissed that thought as foolish. The woman I once knew now stood before me like a stranger. I could no longer discern what she was thinking. As she stood before her mother's life support pod, her expression was one I had never seen before. It was neither sorrow nor regret. It was envy. What could she possibly envy about her dying mother? Was it the peaceful release offered by the machine's simulated world? You're still here, Jordi? Everyone else has left. Oh, sorry, I didn't know there would be a tribunal today. That's okay. These search logs. You've asked quite a few questions. How big is the ocean? Is it bigger than the land? By how much? Can Aegir cities float to the surface? How do the Aegir tell whether it's day or night? Is this how you've been trying to understand Aegir? I fear it may confuse you even more. I am... Mr. Avitus, I'm not sure why, but I feel really excited. In the Inquisition's nautical charts, the ocean extends only a few nautical miles from shore before giving way to unknown regions marked in grayish-blue. In some areas, we couldn't even get near the shore. But your charts are so detailed. Geological features, energy pockets, local fauna and flora. There are so many pages. I don't even know where to start. The forests at the heart of the ocean, icebergs that never melt, thermal vents deep in the trenches. For a moment I thought that the land, sea and sky were all mine for the taking, that I need simply reach out, like everything was made for me. Sorry, that sounds really arrogant, doesn't it? Quite the opposite, young man. It is but a most basic desire. But I am... The young Aegir looks up and gazes at the coral-shaped terminal. Holographic images and words leap up and down, illuminating his soft eyes. I've been in Milliarium for a whole day now. But I can't handle your tech. I don't get your discussions, and I'm even lost with directions. The tribunal that just happened... I have no idea how you guys settled your disagreement. I did a search for Breogan, the ship designer, who I thought was my ancestor. I saw his face, heard his voice, and looked at his designs. Is there really anything I have in common with him? Would his descendants really turn out to be someone like me? I couldn't find a single sign that says I belong here. Aegir is like a lighthouse, bright and tall. I always knew it existed, but when I finally followed its light and reached its base... Why do I feel lost instead? Breogan. It's been many years since his name was last spoken. He was a remarkable man, even amongst the Aegir. He was the most talented designer in the Academy of Technology, but left everything behind to go ashore, right when his country needed him most. Even this city is connected to him, albeit in a somewhat unusual way. How so? It was through the city that he went on land. The Institute of Development Planning even tried to penalize a few consuls for failing to stop him. Listen, Jordi, I cannot ascertain whether you are truly bound to him by blood, though such a connection holds little significance. What matters is that there can be no doubt that you are Aegir. I know I am, but how do I prove I belong here? if I can't even trace my own heritage? A true Aegir needs no proof of that. But I understand. We all search for answers in the past. I'm no different. I can say with a straight face that I am one of Aegir's foremost authorities on prehistory. I firmly believe in the weight of history, and that it contains truths and patterns that will show us the way forward. But what if it's a way of destined destruction for Aegir? I'm sorry, what was that last part? Are you alright, Skadi?
Did you say something, Doctor? Sorry, I was just thinking about shark and swordfish.
They're probably worried about you too. Chin up, Skadi.
I'm not worried about them. They're strong. Nothing good ever happened to those around me, which is why I was always alone, until I joined Rhode Island. Now it's happening again.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Are you afraid you'll bring disaster to the hunters?
Maybe. But we hunters aren't afraid of the bad end we might bring to each other. Because we all share the same grim fate, we can trust each other with our lives. This time though, it might not just be the hunters. I could bring disaster to all of Aegir.
You won't. I believe in you.
That's what Captain Ulpianus always said. He would explain our battle plans in great detail to everyone else, but with me, he would simply say he believed in me. He believed I could complete my mission even if I couldn't memorize those complex strategies.
And do you believe him?
He was always so reliable and had an answer for everything. I remember the songs he wrote before battles. He said we could use them as codes to communicate because the Seaborn didn't understand music. But I just liked the songs. He had a great sense of direction too. He could always lead us all back, even when we were lost in those maze-like nests. We could always count on him to point the way until
Until the final battle?
Yes. The 1st and 4th companies sacrificed themselves to clear a path, while the 2nd held off the Seaborn that were rushing back. Captain Ulpianus led the charge and soon arrived at the target, the core organ of the Firstborn. Then we lost the signal. I thought he was dead, so it fell to me to deal the killing blow.
But he wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know what happened that day. I still don't know why he didn't come back. But the more I don't know, the more I feel like I need to do something.
Trust your warrior's instincts, Skadi. Remember? Whoosh, pow, thud.
Rush in with a whoosh, knock them down with a pow, and finish them with a thud. I remember.
Arrived at target coordinates.
We came as fast as we could, though not fast enough it seems. This is a graveyard.
Giant shipwrecks and seaborne remains lie entangled in a grotesque embrace. Pale flakes descend like snow. While some have given it a more romanticized name, marine snow, it does little to hide its cruel nature. Fragments of organic matter, both seaborne and human. The sweetness of blood and the stench of death, intensified by the cannon's lingering heat, spread with the falling flakes. The Abyssal Hunter's strong sense of smell magnifies all of this, and Spectre cannot help but cover her nose.
This shouldn't be unfamiliar to you, Shark. The fleet pins down the Seaborn with superior numbers as the hunters flank and eliminate the swarm's core. We've used this tactic often. This is the same scene we see each time we leave their nest. I know. Perhaps we've spent too much time on land. It's not a pleasant thing to recall. 1 engineering mothership, 10 battleships, numerous smaller ships. The wreckage positions on the seabed indicate they stayed in formation. They were not taken by surprise. There are signs of gravitational distortion on nearby rocks. They tried to stop the Seaborn using force fields. But the Seaborn were faster. The ships weren't even able to form a crossfire. They fought with them in close quarters. Something's not right. What's the matter? The squadron's destination was Nest 37, but all the ships appear to be headed for Milliarium. Besides, now that the squadron is destroyed, why haven't the Seaborn made their next move? Saltfish! Let's go. Alright, grab my hand. I did tell you to stay on the corvette. Deep water equipment may keep you from being crushed by the water pressure, but even the Aegir are at the mercy of the ocean's currents without proper training. I could use some help once you're done laughing. Imagine you're dancing with a rowdy partner. Counter her moves and find your balance. This is how you fight the currents. You're right. It shouldn't be hard for you. Don't look at me like that. I'll meet you up ahead. A broken lightning array. Trace amounts of organic tissue on the broken metal frame, human and Seaborn. Find anything? Some tissues that match the samples provided by the Institute of Development Planning. It's Tulia. Milliarium was parked here around 40 hours ago. Based on the location of the array, she had left for the circulation system's sewage exit at the edge of the city. But why did she leave? It's hard to reconstruct the scene with what's available. The currents have already washed away most of the clues. I'm afraid we won't find out if Tulia was a cultist with a grudge against the Waterway program, or what happened to her from here. This is 2 hours away by ship from Milliarium's present location, even with deep water equipment. She couldn't have swum back. Based on the remaining tissue, it seems she had encountered a Seaborn. There is no way she could have survived. Right. A dead end. That's the direction the Abyssal Hunters went. The battle may be fiercer than expected. The Waterway program is in its final phase. Once Nest 37 has been located, we can clear the Seaborn from this entire area and open up a waterway. This can't just be a coincidence. Could the incident with Tulia have something to do with the attack on the fleet? Or maybe her incident is just a red fin to distract the sea patrol. There are too many new uncertainties, as if everything's sucked in a giant vortex. Let's go back to the city for now.
Hard bank to port, full speed ahead! Go around that ridge and turn back! That should lose a third of the Seaborn on our tail! Sir, the Seaborn have breached the hull! They're inside the ship! Keep the evasive maneuvers going, helmsman! We'll deal with the ones inside. Camouflage coating down to 10%. We'll be fully visible soon. Buy as much time as you can. Yes, sir!
Take care of the rest, Shark.
Abyssal Hunters?
Gladiia.
I recognize you, ma'am. Have the other ships made it safely back to Milliarium, Madam Consul? Thank goodness. The more of our elites we save, the more strength we'll have for what's ahead.
Are you the commander of this vessel?
Yes, ma'am. We were ambushed. A large swarm of Seaborn left their nest and appeared on the squadron's route. Virtually unheard of in previous beacon deployments. We couldn't reveal our battle plans. We had to retreat. Our ship was the fastest in the fleet. The most logical tactic was for us to delay the Seaborn while the main fleet retreated.
How many survivors are there on your ship?
26. Less than 1 in 10. Why the silence, Madam Consul? I see.
I'm sorry, Commander. Your ship and your 26 men are the only survivors. All Seaborn inside the ship have been eliminated. There is no better way to tell you, so I'll make it brief. The 1,000 or so men whose retreat you were covering fell into an even bigger ambush. We happened to see your ship weaving through the complex terrain as we arrived. But what you couldn't have seen is the Seaborn had you completely surrounded. You were just chasing your own tail in their trap.
We failed the mission. Yet we were the ones who lived. The losses are much worse than expected.
But you did live.
Lift your head, Aegir.
You and your men are just as much Aegir's elites, and you will give your strength to what's ahead. For now, Larantira and I will bring you back to the city.
Well, that was surely an interesting log. So, before we continue, very quickly, it will be addressed literally in the next cutscene at the, I think at the very beginning. But just to clarify, the log, and this is not going to be the last one, by the way, that you just witnessed in the cutscene of BP3. It starts on the beginning of the after cutscene. That thing is not the doctor's logs. This is from someone as yet unknown. So far, in the part that I'm covering today, it has not told us the name of the individual or who they specifically are. It is being vague about their occupation and everything, and outside of them being a captain of a starship apparently, but that is pretty much it. I don't know if there's gonna be a name later down the line. I'm not gonna say it if there will be. However, in today's parts, I'm just gonna say, just so you guys are in the same headspace before you go, like, is that the doctor from the past? No. This is a completely different individual. I have no idea if the people that this person is mentioning, it is a he, by the way, if this person is mentioning are of any relevance to anything or if they're just random characters, but we'll see. It is fascinating, however, and I love it. Another thing that I love is that we are finally getting a lot of little moments between Skadi and the doc, just jaunting around, just exploring the city and having these little conversations. It's very cute. It's very cute and very appreciative, especially because Skadi is one of those characters that always gets kind of presented as that she is definitely very infatuated by the doc in some form or fashion. Free to interpretation, of course, to anybody. But there's definitely a very heavy, like, romantic inclination, especially in her, you know, alter form, which is kind of like a mixture of herself and Ishar Blah, essentially. And that form is very infatuated with the doc because her emotions are just amplified by the big one awakening and just enhancing everything. But yeah, anyway, very interesting little moments, and I do enjoy them a lot. But before we move on to our next cutscene, we have one quick thing here. We have a new enemy, which is the Cellular Hoarder. A Seaborn highly attuned to its environment, believed to be responsible for stockpiling resources, may split at any time when under stress. How very nice! They multiply very fast, we've been aware. But yeah, anyway, we move on to stage number 4, titled price and sacrifice. A life given willingly is a sacrifice. A life given unwillingly is a price. Both are burdens to bear for the one who ordered them. And I will just quickly say I kind of love that sentence. That is a very, very heavy philosophical sentence. Anyway, let's begin. Voice log number 21. In an unknown language at an unknown time. Valeria has been back for half a month now, but I fear the package from Talos may never arrive. Those precious prototype technologies and biological specimens were lost, along with the civilian-grade environmental simulation unit I ordered. No notification, no incident report. The Cosmos simply slammed the door in our faces without warning. Poor Mother. She must endure the life pod a few days longer. This may be selfish, but I was the one to insist on bidding her farewell in a simulated environment. Until the moment she entered hibernation, she wanted to see her grandchildren. How could I tell her the grandchildren she envisioned simply do not exist? No doubt she still dwells in that glorious age where we journeyed among the stars. It's the only way she could see that continuing life doesn't just add to the pain. I chose Talos Union Industries products for their reliability. Mother's no sharp. If the simulated tech was even a generation older, she'd see right through it. I should have realized the risks of interstellar transport sooner. Valeria's leave is all used up. As she left, she was still talking about her grand mission, showing not a single sign of regret. I don't know if she was leaving her regrets behind, or never had any in the first place. One day, I too will sign my name on the consent form and shut down Mother's life pod.
What brings you here?
I came to see you. You've just undergone embryo separation surgery. The Institute of Facility Management should have allowed you to take time off to rest.
The surgery is as non-invasive as it gets, you know. There is no need to rest that long. I can't tell whether you care more about me or the little fellow in the incubation chamber, Magister Avitus.
Of course I care about you, but any newborn in Aegir as it is now deserves attention as well. After he's born, will you choose to raise him personally or give him to the Institute of Incubation?
I don't think about that sort of thing. It's too far away, too distant.
I went to the hospital before I came here.
The hospital? Why?
You're aware of the battle yesterday, yes? Surely you've seen the news. 2 fleets and over 1,000 legionnaires went into battle, but only 26 returned. The Waterway program is at a turning point, and Milliarium has endured its greatest sacrifice since its departure. There have also been quite a few abnormalities in the city as of late.
What is it you're trying to say?
The Sea Patrol are already looking for you, aren't they, Cassia? About that missing data scientist.
Magister Avitus. You know, of all the documents in your collection, the one I like the most is The Death of Life, despite its lack of scholarly value.
I only ever found that diary by accident.
More than 300 years ago, 4 great researchers studying the prehistoric civilization made incredible discoveries in the mantle ruins, bringing back countless precious technologies and data to Aegir. Compared to all of those blueprints and theoretical papers, a transcript of a voice-recorded diary is hardly worth anything. and so it gathered dust in the Academy of Sciences databases, until, thanks to your curiosity, it was deciphered and turned into a popular reading material.
Merely the musings of an ordinary predecessor on his endless journey.
But I loved the story of that predecessor. I enjoyed seeing reality through his eyes. How the connections between countless stars collapsed, how the trust between myriad races crumbled away. Goods were in short supply, technology was lost, philosophy and art fell silent. No matter how much hope and vision went into their great undertakings, they ultimately faded into silence. Just like those nanomachines inerted within the beacon tower.
Did you emphasize with his despair, Cassia? You've never shown a trace of that emotion, though. You even chose to have a child born into a world that could face ruin at any moment. That isn't the choice of someone who's lost all hope.
I don't feel a shred of despair, really. That old-fashioned, dispirited, middle-aged man. It's hard to imagine how I could emphasize with him at all. I simply appreciate how, by borrowing from his past experiences, you ingeniously tore apart the magnificent facade covering the eyes of today's Aegir. We must accept that the things and qualities we were once so proud of have no use now. Perhaps they have always been flawed, and this calamity merely exposed them. Once free of worry over survival, people will begin to consider value. We pray that our thoughts, our deeds, even our very existence will have value. Every one of Aegir's systems is designed around unearthing that value within people. However, value is fragile. You need only look at it from another angle, and the mighty will become the tiny, the hideous, the beautiful. It's a pity that, whether through apathy or inertia, people tend to not change viewpoints they are familiar with.
And so people live on their immutable value. Were those values to crumble away, they would crumble alongside them.
Exactly. When did despair begin to blossom in you? Was it when Milliarium left the home territories? Or even earlier, after the passing of one close to you?
Cassia?
I'm very grateful that you came to see me today. You reminded me that I still have things to do, and time runs short.
I'm surprised you allowed such pessimism to spread in your city, Clementia.
The Death of Life, a prehistoric diary, collated and published by ABYSSAL. The year it was released, it proved to be incredibly popular among the citizens.
They wanted a peek into an unfamiliar life, a thirst born from boredom and idiocy. What you just said would be enough to trigger controversy in any nation on the land, Gladiia.
A tiny piece that implies exhaustion and despair with every line. It tells the story of how a once glorious civilization hit a dead end far more vividly than any raw data. And in today's Aegir, can it really be considered an unfamiliar life?
Aegir may be the prehistoric civilization's heir, but that does not require its subservience. We need not condone the rise of exhaustion and despair. Aegir stands unwavering due to its unbreakable rationality.
It is our rationality that allows us to be aware of our possible destruction, perhaps even one of all humanity. Even those who have fallen, detestable as they are, at times make choices based on long-term examination and cautious reflection.
You have personally executed no small number of cultists in your days in the legions.
Just as you had personally executed any hunter who ran wild, you and I are both burdened with heavy duties that we cannot rely on sentimentality.
What is this rationality that led you to hastily throw the hunters into the battle for the Waterway program, despite their recent return? Kal'tsit.
I invited two of you to look at the beacon tower behind us. It was once an important component of the interstellar expedition our ancestors planned for. Within the tower lie countless nanomachines, the first Aegir city to break through the electron cloud would have seeded them throughout the sea of stars. They would self-proliferate, self-repair, and connect together into an ever-brighter road network. With this, our fleets would have been able to jump freely between the stars. After the outbreak of the Seaborn crises, Aegir turned its eyes from the stars, and the bioenergy system requiring support from a dozen or so cities was cut off. The nanomachines were incompatible with other energy sources, so after losing their specialized source, they all died within that tower. But our colleagues from the Academy of Technology have helped alter this tower to serve us in a different manner by lighting our paths. Since Milliarium left the home territories, it has been continuously marking Seaborn nests. Huge volumes of data are now compiled within the tower's control center. With the precise location of these Seaborn nests, our Class 4 weapons can destroy the primary nest in any targeted area of ocean, driving away the occupying Seaborn. This will clear a path of pure water leading back to the home territories, one that can support a waterway our main forces can pass through. Perhaps the Seaborn will eventually regroup, but at the very least, their accumulated nutrients will rot away in their absence, and any re-established nests will bear no fruit. You are lecturing us on the core concept of the Waterway program, Madam Consul. Yes, I am, Doctor. The Abyssal Hunters only managed to save 26 lives in yesterday's battle. The Seaborn were clearly forewarned. Between the oceanic interior and the continental shelf, the city has been fighting them for far too long. They are now adapting to Class 3 weapons at a much faster rate. Nest 37's position is of particular import. It strangles the throat of the waterway. Abandoning it would mean stumbling at the final hurdle. This is our final battle before the waterway can be opened. We must gather all the forces we can bear as part of the program. The Abyssal Hunters are no exception, even if they have only just arrived home. Can Aegir ensure their safe return? New combat teams are being formed as we speak. They will confront the Seaborn directly and create an opportunity for the hunters to enter the nest and deploy the beacon. But, as you know, these are merely routine tactics. I am unable to offer a guarantee. In that case, I know what you are worried about. Be at ease. The hunters are responsible for their own safety, as well as the risks they face. As this is a joint decision by you two chief designers of warfare, I am unopposed, but I will not withdraw my objections. Gladiia.
An unbecoming sentimentality bubbles up in Clementia's throat. She wants to convey her guilt, her remorse, her regret. She wants to give Gladiia one last hug, just like how she welcomed her back on her return. But she cannot.
Gladiia. Advisor Blandus has made preparations for your organic regeneration surgery. You should make your own before the procedure.
Donna Irene?
Jordi.
You were gone for a whole day.
I was investigating a few things with the Sea Patrol. I also went on a trip into the ocean. I didn't enjoy it very much, so don't ask.
Alright then.
What about you? What have you been up to?
I am,
It's not unusual to feel discomfort. Cheer up, Jordi. This is your hometown. Judging by your expression, you've already studied Breagan's data.
The young Aegir somehow nods his head while also shaking it. I'm not 100% sure, but there seems to be no real relation between me and that great naval architect.
What does that matter?
Uncle Thiago hoped I'd leave Gran Faro, leave Iberia, but he never told me where to go. I'm Aegir, so Aegir is where I should be. But people need some sort of concrete connection, even just a name or some notes to truly trace their family history. ABYSSAL said that even though the Seaborn crisis has been raging for over 200 years, Aegir still has 100 or more cities comparable in size to Milliarium. If I'm not Breogan's descendant, then which city did my grandparents live in before they became islanders? Or was it one of the ones that's gone now? What kind of work did they do? How did they live? In the end, who were they? Sorry, you don't need to hear all this. You've just arrived here yourself, but you're already assisting the Sea Patrol with their investigation. While I'm just, You've got nerves of steel.
I'm just an Iberian who can't do a thing here. Dr. Kal'tsit is in charge of negotiations with the leader of the city. Any hunters have dived right back into their familiar battle, while my lantern and hand cannon aren't especially helpful right now. Aegir will permit the Liberi to look around its warships and ports, but will not allow her to join the legions and help fight against the Seaborn. I can't understand that sort of war. Down here in the depths, all I can do is investigate any abnormal activity within the city, in case it could jeopardize the cooperation between Iberia and Aegir.
Why are you telling me all this?
My hometown was destroyed in a catastrophe, Jordi. I don't have many memories of it. The scripture I carry is the only connection with it I have left. It saved my life, and in doing, became my guide, my faith. But when I saw the Inquisition's dungeons, climbed aboard the Stultifera Navis, witnessed my mentor's sacrifice, only then did I understand what faith was. Accepted its weaknesses, found its meaning.
You mean,
I don't have nerves of steel, Jordi. I get lost and confused too. It's just that, more often than not, that confusion becomes a specific issue you have to resolve, one after another, as quickly as you can. Arresting the cultists, taking back the lighthouse invaded by the tides, finding a lost warship out at sea, aiding an ally in investigating a missing data scientist. The connection you're looking for can be anything, whether it's a hometown or faith. Keep looking. You'll find it. It may not be quick or easy, but you'll find it.
Can I really do it?
Can you not? You helped Iberia relight its final lighthouse and save 3 abyssal hunters. Didn't Laurentina tell you that that's enough to get a commendation from the council herself? Whether it's as an Aegir or an Inquisition clerk, there are a lot of things you can do. Prefecta! You're back in the city, but from the look on your face, I take it the investigation didn't go so well, did it?
Nocilla? Forgive me, I need to report on my progress to Council Clementia. I'm not at liberty to divulge any details.
Actually, I was looking for you. There's something I should have remembered back when you were explaining the situation to us. Nothing major, honestly, and it might not even help. But I felt like I had to tell you.
Go on. Flashback.
You're the last researcher left. I'm really sorry. Can you give me 1 more hour? Caulurpa archaeosphaeridium, Hypnea fenestralis, Halimenia fimbriatus, Palmaria purpureus, Sargassum penata. There is not too many left. I'll finish catacombing them real quick. No need to rush, Tulia. I'm just here for a routine inspection. You know who I am? We were in the same batch before the transfer assessment by the Institute of Development Planning. You might not remember me though. Are you preparing to transfer these seaweeds? This doesn't violate any protocols, does it? Calm down. This building's handover procedures are already completed. If you leave the samples and cultivation equipment behind, you'll end up having to pack them away in bulk. Thanks for the warning. But with all these seaweeds, how can you possibly take them all away at once? Now that it's closer to land, Milliarium will be undergoing targeted reformation. The city won't have the space or the resources to breed seaweeds. Yeah, I know. I'll take as much as I can. I'll think of something. Some way that won't inconvenience anyone. But the base of the volcano is already... That was once Aegir's biggest endangered plants reserve. I saw it get swallowed up by the Seaborn. These primitive seaweeds are some of the simplest yet most tenacious life forms in the entire ocean. Whether in bright, shallow seas, the dark abyss, the flat seafloor, or cracks in the cliffs, they stretch out as best they can. And they're as old as the ocean itself. Pretty much this planet's living fossils. I'm no legionnaire, and I can't go fight the Seaborn. These remaining seaweeds won't help us solve the Seaborn problem either. But I can't just let them wither away in here.
You really love your work, huh, Tulia?
Don't you? My little handy sent over a loading module. Sorry, but I can't stay and chat.
Do you need any help?
No thanks, I'm fine.
Flashback ends. When did it happen?
The day before the Institute of Ecological Art relocated. I don't know what happened to her after that, and I don't know if she thinks Milliarium abandoned the volcanic power station and the plants reserve. But I can't imagine her doing anything bad because of it, because she's never abandoned anything herself.
Tulia's residence had quite a few hydroponic tanks, but they've been empty for a while. What you just told me might actually be significant, Lucilla. But if I may be so bold, why do you care so much about her affairs? From what I've heard, you could hardly be considered friends.
She has something I don't. Okay, I've said what I had to say. I'll be getting back to work now. Perfecta. There's just been more and more happening lately. The maintenance required for the city until unit framework has multiplied several-fold, and I'm running out of ink as it is.
Little handy. Perfecta secunda. Obtain data on the city of Milliarium from the Institute of Facility Management. Right away, retrieve all locations suitable for enclosed hydroponics. Also, contact Irene. Tulia may have left other clues within the city. Ask her to meet me as soon as possible. Reassessing. Biological safety of operating theater now at permitted levels. Surgery may begin at any time. Hunters, just as before, you will be kept in a deep sleep during the automated surgery. I will also be manually repairing your outdated internal auto-adaptive junctions.
This room filled to the brim with specimens, and these lab tables are all rather familiar. How long has it been since we last laid down in such an environment?
5 years, Laurentina. I should really be waiting for your medulla replacement surgery to finish and your cell originium assimilation rate to stabilize before I handle any of your hunter-related issues. But time is short, and I have no choice but to restore you to stable condition to the best of my abilities. My apologies, Laurentina.
Sentimental as always. Ah, right, as usual.
A candle will be lit by your side, so our little mermaid won't look so pale while she sleeps. I've asked my staff to prepare it for you.
I knew you'd remember.
Please maintain comfortable position and stay still while the regen gel fills.
This isn't so different from back then, except there's a lot less hunters now. Clear a trench of scum, close your eyes, listen to some advisor prattle on, then sink into the regen gel and take a nap. And once you wake up, all the nauseating smells left on your body will be gone without a trace.
While you were in the adverse fickle environments of the land for long periods without care, your bodies became extremely unstable. The auto-adaptive junction can monitor your Seaborn genes, but 5 years of wear can render even the most precise instruments dull. Moreover, your immune systems have also fallen into disorder thanks to their long struggle against the Seaborn genes. I will do my best to restore you all to peak condition, but anything lost during those 5 years is out of my hands.
Okay.
Gladiia, our reunion at the tribunal was less than cordial, so I would have liked for us to consider this our first meeting since your return. But you haven't said a word since we started.
Is there anything else you need to tell us in regards to the surgery, Blandus? If not, then save it for after the procedure. We can discuss the changes we've felt over the past 5 years, as well as the changes you felt.
Please stay still. Anesthetic procedure will begin in 10 seconds. Well then, sweet dreams, hunters.
Advisor Blandus, some things have come up and need your reconfirmation.
Did I not say that once the operating theater doors are closed, I would be mending the hunter's auto-adaptive junctions and must not be disturbed?
Central Control has discovered some abnormalities. You should personally check them over, just to be safe.
Hold on then. I'll get the door.
The monitoring units in the dome were performing an emergency scan. We noticed a concentration of algal biosignatures here. Thanks for informing me. Not a problem. Since you're already participating in Tulia's case, there was no reason to cut you out partway. A place where the dome and the ground meet. This former experimental field for roadside coral. Though it can't compare to the specialized setups at the Institute of Ecological Art, it's much better for seaweed breeding than small-scale hydroponic tanks in a room. Whether it be in her nature or out of an ulterior motive, Tulia did not apply for authorization to use this place. She found it on her own, without telling anyone. Tulia. We can't say for sure if there is a church hideout here, or if Tulia is still within. In short, stay alert. Team 1 has already formed a defensive perimeter around the neighborhood, and will monitor the roads. Irene, go with Team 2, enter via surface roads. As for the roads connecting the dome and the mezzanine, leave them to me. Got it. Move out. Who's there?
Have you found something, Prefector Secunda? Do you need reinforcements? Somebody blocks her path, or more precisely, prevents her from leaving. The one in her way lurks in the shadows formed by the angles of the buildings, their entire body blending into the darkness save their eyes, eyes that Secunda are all too familiar with.
Stick to the plan.
Secunda cuts her comms.
It's been a while, Magister. Blandus, the weapon technology advisor for the Waterway program, and an expert in Class 4 weapon R&D, correct?
You're not from the lab.
No sudden moves. If the bristles of this long-beard comb-tooth grass pierce your skin, you'll quickly fall into a tormented dream where you'll sense your consciousness being slowly torn apart. The variety used for euthanasia has been bred to be milder, but wild ones are still plenty cruel. You may look half dead, but I know for a fact that you're the sort who really cares how they die.
Church of the Deep? Don't you dare touch the anesthetized hunters!
What an odd fellow. Even as your life is threatened, you think of them first.
You may care for the hunters, but you've never trusted the Abyssal Hunter project itself. You question its rationale, its damage to the nature of humanity, and all the sacrifices it requires. You took part in it, but only so you could personally control all the risks entailed. You experienced its demise firsthand, saw the extensive project, interlinked with so many others, came to a hasty end after an uncertain failure. so I doubt you'd want to send these survivors, freshly returned to Aegir, back onto the battlefield. No, you don't understand. What I do is only to protect them from further harm. So why not halt the procedure? Stop them from joining the battle for the Waterway program? The surgery is fully automated. I can't just stop it.
Sever the oxygen pipeline below the operating table, and it'll cut the procedure short. Don't think we don't know that. If you want to do it, we can do it for you.
After you finish handling the Hunter's advisor, come to take a walk with us, explain the principles behind the Class 4 weapons, as well as how to shut them down. Stop! If the operation is forcibly terminated, the Hunters will be irreversibly harmed!
Scum.
The researcher stops in his tracks. He dares not step forward, yet dares not move back, for a lance has pierced his torso, his blood dripping down its shaft.
If you do not wish me to ram this straight through your chest, let go of your hand. What are you doing here?
Don't ask pointless questions, Secunda.
You're investigating Tulia too. Did you find anything?
She's simply an ordinary data scientist who got caught up in this. She discovered something she shouldn't have, attempted to warn the authorities, but failed. You were too slow. What she encountered has nothing to do with her past. The battle outside the city, the abnormalities within, the Sea Patrol staying uninvolved with the Waterway program. You've noticed many oddities, yet at the same time, your attention was so easily diverted.
You mean... Cassia?
Precisely. You were once so focused and keen as well. So the day you decided to leave the Abyssal Hunter lab to join the Sea Patrol, I believed you had reflected upon yourself and chosen a more suitable path. It seems that was not the only time you have allowed emotion to cloud your decisions.
Aside from your clothes, you haven't changed a bit in 5 years, especially not how you talk. Whether as a researcher or a hunter, you'd never refuse to hear a student's questions, but would refuse to answer if you thought the question itself was wrong.
There are no worthless answers. Their worth lies in the questions. Questions are the most effective means of tempering your thoughts, and your questions were always most pointed, Secunda.
Then there should be no fault with the original question. What are you doing here, Ulpianus? This is the scene of a Sea Patrol investigation. A fugitive abyssal hunter like you should be laying down his anchor and making clear his position. Gladiia and the others have proven an effective force in the battle for the Waterway program, while despite also surviving, you chose to return to Milliarium like this. That's more than enough grounds to attack you.
Their return will only make the situation more volatile. Even through Tulia's case, it's clear that the so-called Waterway program is riddled with issues. Aegir has learned nothing from the failure of the Abyssal Hunter project.
What are you going to do?
Prevent this nation from sliding into the abyss.
I'd say you're looking awfully like our enemy now, though.
Dub me as you will, Secunda.
A shrill crying sound can be heard in the distance. What's happening in there?
An ordinary Aegir, doing all she can. But Aegir will no longer show her any respect.
Who are you? Irene. Ulpianus?
Nobody responds. The hunter has already faded into the shadows. What the... Why aren't you asleep?
I'm not the only one. Hello. I suggest moving the hand carrying that whatever grass away from the advisor's neck.
You... Ah! A fair hand tightly grips the plant held by the researcher, its glistening tentacles struggling fiercely as they are nipped off one by one.
I told you to move it away. The real researchers are in the instrument recycling room, probably injected with paralytics. They won't wake up for a while. I also took care of the goons in the corridor.
Did you leave any alive for questioning?
They won't die before the Sea Patrol takes them away, at least.
Gladiia, Laurentina, Skadi. Blanda stands in the center of the operating theater. The hunters step towards him, over the intruders lying flat on the ground. They do not lower their weapons.
Not going to explain the trick you played with the Regen Gel, advisor? My dearest Blandus, just to be clear, we are not fortune tellers. Swordfish, thought something was off from the start.
We've undergone hundreds of surgeries. We've probably spent more time sleeping in gels than in our beds. You should know that even if the operation failed to restore us to our full potential, we would still have returned to the battlefield. As I told Ulpianus when he came to me, all I wanted was for the participants of this program to live like normal people again someday. I wished for my fellow people who'd come from all walks of life to have the chance to finally return to their former lives. Skadi could continue her life of wandering, hammering away at complex lighting arrays while taking pictures of the seabed nobody else would understand. Laurentina's skills could let her become the next shining star of the Institute of Physical Art. We could watch the graceful stars projected across the dome while she dances alongside the meteors in the Sophon Theatrum. Or perhaps we would find her works on the street corners of each and every city. Flavius, the seaweed breeder technician, Nona, the songwriter, Lunia, the exotic organism researcher, and Celsus, the youngest ever scientific exploration fleet commander. We both still remember the names of all these hunters, Gladiia. We've both had our fill of sacrifice. This is far from the first time I've heard this little cliché of yours. Your feebleness and stupidity are already enough to earn you a death by my lance. Luckily for you, those church scum arrived at just the right time to save your hide. Are you saying their actions have coincidentally proven my innocence? That's not what I wanted, Gladiia. What I must do will not change. Your innocence is of little relevance. My point was that by choosing to expose themselves now, risking everything to stop the hunters from rejoining the battle, and even holding an advisor hostage, all it shows is how effective the deployment of the Waterway program has been. Blandus, weapons technology advisor of the Waterway program, abandon your little tricks, complete our surgery, then return to your original post. Clementia's orders are that once Nest 37 has been successfully marked, the Class 4 weapons are to immediately strike against all nests by the waterway. The church is grasping at straws. As one can surmise from those drags we're talking about earlier, they will not stop. The Abyssal Hunter project no longer exists, Blandus. If sentimentality clouds your mind and renders you feeble, tear it out. Forget it. Gladiia, you're the same as ever. No, even stricter with yourself. What I ask of myself has no bearing here. Just yesterday, out of 2 entire fleets, we were only able to save 26 people from the Seaborn encirclement. Before we entered this old lab, I just learned that those 26 legionnaires had already applied for positions in the newly drawn army. War is never ending.
and no soldier can tear themselves away from the battlefield. That's all it is, nothing more. Seaborn.
Where dome and ground meet, an entire wall is covered in remodeled hydroponic tanks. Various species of seaweed grow wildly, and several large clusters have already begun to grow out of their tanks. Separated by a transparent wall, they face the gloomy seawater. A lone Seaborn wanders about, like a lost spirit. Its tentacles are tightly wound around a transparent container, and the rest of its body shakes and sways as it drags itself towards the tanks.
Its clumsy posture, as though it's unaccustomed to its body. Are you... Tulia? Tulia... You can still speak. You still have your humanity. Tell me, what happened to you? Left and returned. Data. Someone used Waterway signal. I told her, but she told who? Ocean. Fell into ocean. City left you. They're still here. So far. Give her some space, Irene. The Seaborn cells have completely transformed her body. Her mind is near the point of no return. We've handled similar transformations. This stage in Seaborn degeneration is extremely unstable. It's far beyond the point where we can provide palliative care. You sure took your time. I ran into something. We've been misled. Someone deliberately engendered suspicions regarding the scientist's past and her motives for joining the Waterway program. It's led the investigation astray. You mean that woman from the Institute of Facility Management? That's right, Cassia. Once we're finished here, the Sea Patrol will inform the Institute of Facility Management and arrest her. Tulia noticed occasional abnormalities in the signaling system and told a friend, possibly Cassia. She exposed herself to the church. She'd have been chased towards the fringes of the city, where she fell into a drain and was carried out to the sea by the city's circulatory system. Do you remember how we found pieces of biological tissue on our excursion outside? Crossing between two anchorage points without equipment is far beyond the limit of the human form. So in her desperation to return to the city, she ate that strange flesh. What's that she's holding? Plant nutrient fluid. Her consciousness should be gone by now. Don't tell me she returned to the city just for these seaweeds? These primitive seaweeds are some of the simplest yet most tenacious life forms in the entire ocean. Whether in bright shallow seas, the dark abyss, the flat sea floor, or cracks in the cliffs, they stretch out as best they can. And they're as old as the ocean itself, pretty much this planet's living fossils.
The Seaborn suddenly stops, as though it has just noticed something. Its tentacles recklessly thrash about, and the transparent container tumbles from its grasp, spilling nutrient fluid all over the floor.
Biomonitor readings increasing rapidly. Her transformation is accelerating. Why did she suddenly stop? Did something happen?
Irene walks in front of the Seaborn. As she passes by the glass of the hydroponic tanks, she sees her own face.
Yes, I believe. She saw what she had become. A data scientist, yet also a woman, as simple as the seaweeds she cultivates. She chose to stay, or perhaps knew that following the Institute of Ecological Art to another city would not truly have helped these seaweeds as they gradually lose their place out in the wild ocean. But now she has become one of the pollutants, threatening them herself.
Irene closes her eyes. She never knew this Aegir woman who loved seaweeds. She's only ever seen her image in the little handy, and now before their first meeting, she's already become the Seaborn she sees before her. Whether by rapier or hand cannon, she should end its life.
I believe she can no longer answer our questions. It seems you're familiar with this sort of thing. I once heard a Seaborn play a broken song aboard the ship. I apologize for underestimating you earlier, Irene. The land and the sea are connected. You may not have experienced the front lines of the Seaborn conflict, but you've witnessed both what has changed and what has not, equal in their weight and cruelty. But for now, let me handle this. She is an Aegir.
Irene sees Secunda walk past her side, stopping in front of the Seaborn. The expressionless Paraeffecta places her shield between the Seaborn and the wall covered in tanks, then raises her weapon at the once woman.
Her journey ended. Her home close at hand. This song. She chose this place to sleep.
The Seaborn collapses to the floor. The commander's shield blocks its spurting bodily fluids from entering the hydroponic tanks. The seaweeds sway, quietly, respirating. Well, that was a way to end a cutscene. Well, that was heavy. Well, goodbye, Tulia. We hardly knew ye. Good lord. That went heavy. That one went heavy. That one went very heavy. Ooh. Good god. God, I can't even imagine what they had to go through the rest of her consciousness that was still present when she realized finally, when it snapped into her brain that, oh god, I turned into a Seaborn. Oh jeez. It's funny. I know it's probably gonna be brought up in the comment section, probably, but if it's not gonna be brought up, we do know that people who turn into Seaborn fully transform back into a human, like solidify their form as a human being. It's still not fully explained how it happens. It happens with certain individuals who are way more highly advanced, like Tulia here, for example, seemed to be more like almost like in more like an amoeba state than an actual fully Seaborn, you know, a full like mollusk as we see them, or even higher forms like the actual human-shaped Seaborn or something. We do know that those like higher versions of them, the more tougher, durable versions that have more mass, they do kind of try either mimic humans at some point. But we do also know from Highmore, for example, and Mizuki is another good example of they're both Seaborn essentially, but they're both retaining their human form. For Highmore, again, you can see what happens to her. Doesn't really get explained fully. Again, it's being kept vague. It's kind of like a thing of, they have a, I'm going to the word determination. I know it's not the right word here. It's obsession. That's the word. Like Deepcaller, for example, another Seaborn, but she's also maintaining her human form, despite the fact that she was overtaken by the cells. But she has a super high obsession with her art and everything, and the constant trying to one-up herself with the art is kind of keeping her sane in a sense. Mizuki has his own little agenda as well that is keeping him around as a human being. Highmore is another example of someone who was technically a Seaborn, was technically a boss in IS 3, but turns back into a human form and maintains currently her human form. So it depends. There are you know, stipulations to this thing, but Seaborn can maintain their human shape if they have been turned. It's just very conditional. You could also say it's story writing, but it does have its merit in some form of reality. But yeah, this one was definitely heavy, and yeah, the logs are continuing and they are not stopping. I will say this about these logs from this person from the distant past. I love them. I love them because they give, and I think they bring it up in the story as well. God, I can't remember. I'm recording this in post after I was done recording all the scenes. One of the characters at one point does mention that seeing this personal view of the final days of the old humanity, essentially of the predecessors of the ancient race, predecessors essentially, is a very nice touch. Seeing it just from someone who doesn't seem to be like a scientist or anything, just seems to be a almost normal person, is a very neat touch, a very personal touch, and very depressing, very depressing. But anyway, we do have one quick thing here, one quick enemy to add to our menagerie, which is the Matrocellular Nurse, a complex Seaborn with a variety of organs, believed to be responsible for brood care. Its core is concealed within its body. Nice. Yeah. They spawn stuff. Good. More Seaborn. Anyway, we continue on to our final part for today, the before scene for stage 5, titled Lethal Fate. The Aegir had forgotten the concept of fate, but must face theirs when matters spiral out of control. Let's start. Voice log number 33. In an unknown language, at an unknown time. The Stargate's remodeling plan is an apparent success, and we have re-established a connection with Talos. A 2-year backlog of information has been flooding in, but it is bare of any good tidings. First it was the observatory stations on the asteroid belt, then the entire system's interstellar hub. Finally, the cruise fleets orbiting hospitable planets also fell into silence. Even the ancient colonial fleet, turned into a nomadic museum, was not spared the same fate. Along with these shocking revelations came similarly unexpected data left behind by Valeria. Her notes resembled her very being, long-winded and inexhaustible. However, she seemed to have spent her last days repeatedly poring over literature and history alongside the technical documents, studying how these great men died, what their last words and epitaphs were. Like a child on the day before their coming-of-age ceremony, riffling through their parents' wardrobe in a frantic search for attire dignified enough for an adult. Did she find her own life inadequate, insufficiently weighty? No, she left practically all that she had at the Stargate. If she had lived in the past, wouldn't her achievements have been inserted into the annals of history? But now it seemed nothing more than a narrow door open between two tiny locked rooms in the dark. I fear it won't be long before the door is shut once more. In the end, the history of humanity has exceeded the bounds of humanity itself. Reading error occurred. 2. Run fault diagnostics. Do you need my help, Mr. Avitus? Oh no, I was merely observing this abandoned little handy. Abandoned? By who? Don't worry, that's not important. What brings you here, Jordi? I'm hoping to find something to do. We're clearly in dire straits, and I'm sure this city is full of problems in need of solving. They just won't reveal themselves to me. Generally speaking, in that situation, you should go to the Institute of Development Planning for an assessment. However, if you were looking for me specifically, I'll try my best to help you out. You're a highly experienced and respected scholar, after all, and many in the city call you Magister. Magister? My last work was The Depth of Life, a book with no educational value whatsoever. I read it, actually, although I couldn't understand much with so many cryptic words, like, starship, stargate. It seemed like from another world. Another world? Huh, you're right about that. But I find myself undeserving of the title Magister. Oftentimes I find myself lost in confusion. Jordi, do you remember when I told you that blood ties were unimportant? I do, but I may have been a bit misleading. While we indeed care little for blood relations, relationships themselves are an excellent lead to follow. When one is lost, one ought to find a connection to reality, be it a life or an ideal, and seek a way out. Otherwise, you'll end up like me, sinking into an extended questioning of value of your own existence. If I may be so bold, can I ask your own relationship is, someone very close to me. How exactly? She shared the same thoughts and goals, and would enrich both my spirit and my ideas. I loved her as ardently as I loved Aegir, as well as everything we've done for it. I live a life surrounded by mountains of prehistoric material written in their strange script and incomprehensible grammar. I enjoy the process of translating it into Aegirian text. That was how we met, and I still remember how she'd thrown herself into her own work. Her eyebrows seemed to dance whenever she talked about something of interest to her. And when I told her so, in those exact words, she actually went to the Institute of Physical Art to find out if eyebrows could dance for real. What a strange form of art. Did they manage it? Strictly speaking, no, but some of their researchers were inspired to later develop the technology to make hair dance on its own. We've experienced the catastrophe that silenced the entire sea, and the Seaborn continue to threaten our existence, but we remain committed to exploring science, art, and our vision for the future. Lava bridges that pump power from the planet's mantle, aquatic artery hubs that transform currents into fountains, artificial suns illuminating the depths of the oceanic abyss, and ecological bases filling the barren seafloor with life. We persist in transforming what the predecessors lost into mystical megastructures. We need only a spark to spur on countless inventions. 150 years is truly too short. 150 years? Yes, the average lifespan of an Aegir. Short, you say. The more dangerous the era, the more valuable our creations become. We firmly believed in living fulfilling lives, and would gladly have gone to our end without regrets as we passed down the fire of civilization. We planned an educational system we believed was better than the Institute of Incubation. Once our child was born via the incubator, we would raise them ourselves. They would possess a surging spirit and fresh ideologies and become part of a more creative generation. It is unusual to raise children personally, but we had hoped to pass on the values we treasured from the fulfilling lives we'd lived. So, what happened to her? Dead. Remember the predecessor mentioned in The Death of Life? He took a shelter in an unknown refuge as he watched the sky pressing down on the earth every day. He already had a premonition of his own end. There was nothing he could do but calmly welcome its advent. But that's someone else's life, a life far too distant from ours. Is it though? Are we not currently going through the same things? Give it 50 years, maybe 100, and even the vast ocean may no longer hold a single drop of pure water. The Seaborn have unwittingly overrun the ocean faster than we can create, devouring everything we were once proud of, turning survival into our only priority. I watched as she was engulfed by despair. One day she calmly gave up on our idea of raising our child ourselves. After all, everything we have inherited would only be lost in an era predestined to perish. 5 years ago, the Abyssal Hunters went to the lair of the Firstborn, and no one returned alive. Soon after, she got sick and died in depression. Our son was successfully born in the incubator, but I sent him to the institution of incubation. This was also when I began questioning the meaning of my own existence. My apologies, Jordi. I was supposed to be providing you guidance, wasn't I? I've already severed my relationship with the real world, but perhaps you have someone or something you still have ties with. But I gave up chasing Brogan long ago. I can't waste even more time chasing an unreachable shadow. Maybe I could delve into the notes he left and learn how he developed his tech, and not just because I might be his descendant. But because you also have talent and dreams in that field. You can try the beacon tower then. Brogan was involved in its reconstruction, so if you're familiar with its handiwork, perhaps you could help them out. Every Aegir leaves their own quirks in their writings, theories or technologies, so sometimes all you need to sort out a trickier part is someone more familiar with the author. Thank you, Mr. Avitus. Advisor Blandus, are you alright?
Of course. The cultists failed to stop me from performing the surgery on the hunters.
I'm asking about your physical condition.
Thanks, Secunda. I see you're still...
Given your strange aversion to medical aid, someone has to confirm you're alright. Although judging from your condition, I'm guessing I'm not the first to try sending you to the hospital.
Perhaps the Waterway program is too overwhelming. I'm something of a doctor myself, so I do know how to keep myself healthy. Healthy enough to not slow down the program anyway. You know, you should take a look at the plant the cultists were using to kill people. It's difficult to imagine someone at the Institute of Ecological Arts using it as paint.
Well, seeing how you're not in any immediate danger, I'll need you to cooperate with my investigation. I saw Ulpianus recently. I see you have too.
Only briefly, at the Sophon Theatrum.
And you didn't report this?
Catching a momentary glimpse of a familiar figure is hardly worth reporting.
I'm not joking around, Advisor Blandus. The data scientist's case has been confirmed to be a murder by the cultists, and it may be related to the assault on the lab. Ulpianus seems to know the victim well, and openly expressed his distrust of Aegir.
He's always been like that. More action than words, and never unwilling to reveal his reasons.
His unique style doesn't explain all the doubts about him. I still need to check if he's linked to several church cases.
Secunda, do you really lack any other leads or suspects more worthy of investigation? Or I should ask, is this obsession with Ulpianus merely your own whim? Secunda, I'm the one who rejected your application back then.
What did you just say?
I said it was me who rejected your application to volunteer to become an abyssal hunter. Ulpianus concurred, but I was the one who officially rejected you.
Why?
I saw your documents from the Institute of Development Planning. You had written genetic research in the box asking for your aspirations.
You only had to look at another file to see that becoming a hunter was another of my aspirations.
We considered you extremely talented, even among the participants of the Abyssal Hunter project. During our technical discussions, you were the only one to ask Ulpianus 10 questions in a row and get answers for all of them, the highest record for a freshman researcher. The early transformation techniques were dangerous and unreliable. We were always searching for a better integration method. It was ultimately your theories that advanced the program's technology.
I consider it an honor back then, at least.
But the program itself is nothing to be proud of, Secunda. The concept was born nearly 2 centuries ago, a far cry from the average citizen's impression today. It was only 20-some years ago that Ulpianus made it into a reality. In the 100+ years before that, it was never afforded any systematic scrutiny or research, only endless debates. To exploit our countrymen and integrate the flesh of other species into ourselves to save our humanity was tantamount to toppling the very foundations of Aegir. But Ulpianus is a decisive man. He can abandon his research ideals, emotions, and even his humanity without a shred of hesitation. The sole principle he abides by is to benefit Aegir. And perhaps he will save Aegir someday, but our country should not be founded upon boundless self-sacrifice. Ulpianus understands better than anyone that his very existence is actually his country's woe. And so, the Abyssal Hunters do not need a second Ulpianus. Aegir should not have a second Ulpianus. There should be no one in Aegir who wishes to become another.
I could practically hear him say it.
I once joked to him how much better it would be if you were my student instead. Perhaps you could continue the research he and I used to work on, the evolution of Aegir cells, or perhaps you'd start a new field entirely. You could have become one of the leading scientists of our time, with the opportunity to explore the primordial mysteries of all existence and lead us into the future.
Blandus, the two of you had no right.
I'm sorry, Secunda.
Did you start reminiscing about the old days just to tell me I shouldn't bear a grudge against Ulpianus?
I did it so you'd see him in a new light. Being too eager to capture him would do nothing of you any good. Aren't there cultists ready and available for questioning? Don't forget your duties, Secunda.
Where are they?
The first floor, in a booth in the equipment administration room. Do you need me to show you the way?
I know where it is. DC Patrol will take over the detainment of the criminals.
I'm so sorry, but you can't go any further. We're currently, Wait, didn't I see you at the tribunal? I know who you are, the emissary from land. If you don't mind me asking, what exactly are your duties on this diplomatic mission?
Flashback.
The data scientist seemed to have completely transformed into a Seaborn by the time she was found. It would be difficult to obtain any further information from her, other than the fact that this set of data seems related to the Waterway and the beacons. I finished analyzing the contents. There are unusual data interactions between the beacon within the city and the ones deployed in the nests. The signals come from many spots within the city, and have already inspected the port hub and any possible ships. The only remaining location is Lab C-22, one of the earliest Abyssal Hunter experimental research labs.
You should be familiar with the place then.
However, it is far livelier here than I can remember it ever being. Secunda has even deployed a garrison in the name of protecting Blandus. A hindrance.
I'll help draw their attention if needed.
I can manage the sea patrol for now. You should focus on the toughest target.
Back to present.
You would be the doctor of Rhode Island, yes?
As you say, in the flesh.
You say your institution helped diagnose and treat neuropathy in our hunters, and now you hope to assist me with their organic regeneration surgery?
That's exactly what I'm here for.
Then you can leave with peace of mind. The church's assault here was just a minor episode, and the hunters have already returned to their hibernation. I'll be constantly monitoring their physical condition, so your gaze, no matter how vigilant it may be, will be of little use in their recovery.
I see the hunters were telling the truth. You really have a terrible sense of humor.
I see they have developed a deep friendship with you while wandering about on land. Insist all you want, it doesn't change the fact that you will be of no help during the operation. I mean no offense. This place was just recently raided, so please return to where you came from, for your own safety.
Blandus no longer pays you any attention, his gaze falling back onto the holographic projections before him. Through those squares you can clearly see Gladiia, Skadi, and Laurentina deep asleep in a transparent gel. You didn't manage to get a full grasp of Aegir's writing system before coming here. After days of fumbling your way through the city, you can still only recognize about half the symbols shown in the visuals. But you observe a more important phenomenon within them. Whenever Blandus selects an image, it would emit a faint beep. That is to say, every chosen image generates a corresponding beep on the monitoring unit. Could I help arrange the visual display?
Of course. I see you really want to stay. I won't force you to leave either. It seems you really do care for the hunters, and I like people like you. Little handy, the doctor is unfamiliar with the equipment in Aegir, so keep an eye on things.
Understood.
Doctor, as long as you don't touch anything you shouldn't, then The coroner's monitoring unit just beeped. Someone's looking in here. Another beep for the experimental cabin in front of and the corner further ahead. There seems to be some sort of pattern. Someone in the control room is rapidly switching the order of the holograms back and forth. Doctor? What are you trying to tell me? This way, then. The operation is complete, Doctor. Thank you for your, fast and furious cooperation. The hunters will need another 10 minutes to awaken, but I guarantee the procedure went without a hitch. So if you could now leave...
The hunters seem to be deep asleep.
They were unable to get any proper rest on land, despite what I'm sure was the best possible accommodation from you and Rhode Island. Even now, they've just only arrived home, yet now must rush back to the front lines. A single operation and hibernation session is far from enough to restore them to full strength.
It sounds like you tried your best.
I wouldn't say so. Even if I've fulfilled my duties, There is a fundamental difference between the two, after all. I believe you mentioned your expertise in the field of arithmetry. Could you tell me what it's like to be a patient?
They fight their fate for the rest of their lives.
Fate?
It means an inevitable direction or end.
Interesting. The ancient sages once discussed the concept of fate, but it's been a long time since anyone has brought it up. You see, oripathy does not exist in the ocean, and most other diseases we manage to cure. We all choose our own paths in life, and the trajectory of our civilization is ours to define. For the longest time, we have forgotten what fate even is. Yet now, the irrevocable disease we've engraved into our hunter's blood cannot be dealt with medically. To borrow your concept, one may call such a problem fate. Each of the hunters held their own dreams, their own lives, but now they have no choice but to live alongside slaughter until they die themselves. I've tried many methods to bring them back from this dead end, all to no avail. Even now.
Oh, the three of them are awake.
They seem to be in a hurry. I should get going. It has been an honor to speak with you, Doctor. I hope you can take good care of them, if given the chance.
And this is where we're gonna end the story for this part. I love the dock running diversion for for Ulpianus. The sneaking mission together with these two is actually hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, also our boy Abatus sharing his depression. Damn, son. God damn, son. That was also a bit... Kinda enjoying this story so far, I'm not gonna lie. This personal human touch to these guys is very good. Very good and very grounding. I do like, however, that they're bringing up also that Abatus essentially with his, I guess... I don't actually know. They didn't say specifically wife. They say like relationship partner and stuff like that. I don't actually know if they have marriages. They haven't said anything about that. But essentially, what he said there with his partner, he was trying to actually try and build up a regular school system, it sounds, and a regular bringing up system for the kids to be brought up by their parents, while still maintaining the whole incubation thing, which. Still, it's such a mind-bending thing that they are doing, which is also kind of funny when you think about it, because most fish lay their eggs outside, and you know, and the fishies just hatch from those little eggs, and that's that, which is kind of funny, because they are doing essentially the same thing. They are conceiving the child inside of them, but they are then removing that child and putting it into an incubator, and growing the child in an incubator, which is kinda weird, but also fits in with the fish team. The Aegirians are really weird. But yeah, anyway. Very interesting. Also more logs, more mention of Talos, more stuff there. And yeah, interesting. Interesting to see, once again, the downfall of the old civilization through the eyes of someone who was actually present there. And is, well, not around, probably. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. I'm very, very looking forward to see more of these logs. Not sure how many more we're gonna get, but I'm very curious to see where these logs are gonna be heading towards. So far, a couple of very interesting things have been mentioned. Yeah, let's see where these are gonna go towards. But before I leave you guys off, we have one more thing to do here, which is a thing I was postponing of doing, and that is to invite our newest unit in. So, let's do it.
Doctor, 陸で貴殿に会えて光栄です。我々は現在同じ戦いに身を置いています。それが召喚が今ここに立っている理由です。
I only heard a snippet of her voice, how she sounds. I don't remember where. I heard a small little clip somewhere how she sounds. So that is pretty much how I was basing my performance for her. For the whole thing. I'm glad that that was actually kinda accurate. I was kinda winging it with her mostly. Anyway, that will be that. The rest of this video will be a couple of clips. I don't think I have too many this time to share. There's been a couple of moments that I do want to put in the video at the end. But yeah, enjoy those, and in the meantime, I will see you guys in the next part. Until then, have fun, stay safe, and yeah, enjoy.
The Stargate, the Twin Moons, the Barrier, the ruins in the mantle.
The ruins in the mantle. That I am not sure if I know what that is. The Stargate is easy. That's on the north in the ice fields. The Twin Moons, very easy. The Barrier. Also, she's pointing out the Twin Moons. Now, is she just pointing it out because there are two moons up there, or is she pointing it out because one of the two moons is a superstructure? Or both? To be fair, in that one image from Lone Trail, one of the two moons did look a bit more shiny, more polished than the other. Could be also just be sunlight, but considering how technologically advanced those people were, and planetary engineering is a term associated with them, that wouldn't be too much of a stretch. Okay, but the ruins in the mantle. Huh.
There is much on this planet that on this planet that was not formally formed naturally.
Oh, I wasn't even paying attention to the rest of the sentence. There is much on this planet that was not formed naturally. Yeah. So is she saying that both moons are... Huh, okay.
Our Voyager fleets, having traversed to the far side of the planet, have even detected highly unusual terrain concealed behind the distant dark fog.
Right. The rest of the planet isn't even explored. It's literally just a landmass that we are on. Keep forgetting about that. So, ooh, this is a lot of interesting stuff here.
There, the sea currents abruptly cut off, as though they had reached the end of the ocean.
Huh. Huh. Stupid idea, but what if they did? What if Terra is a construction? What if Terra is literally just a superstructure, but was never finished? That would explain the barrier. The barrier being produced by the planet itself. I think that was one of my old theories, that it's the planet that is producing the barrier.
That is merely a hotbed that has long since cooled. The most important prehistoric relics lie in the Aegir heartlands. You know this, Madam Council.
That is a hotbed that is cooled. Okay, so the other side of the planet is contaminated with shit?
The prehistoric ruins beneath the seabed are a gift from the ocean to Aegir, then nurtured your civilization and have granted you power and knowledge far beyond the terrestrial nations, and with them, responsibility. As you say, Dr. Kal'tsit, responsibility. When did the land dwellers first start calling themselves human? When they lit the first fire with Originium, built their first city with stone and mud? On land, self-awareness and identity were established naturally over time. Even today, humanity is often defined in the narrowest terms. For the Aegir, it was conferred. We were not the same race as the predecessors, but we inherited their identity as we inherited their mantle.
Ha! So they started calling themselves human because the title, essentially human, was given to her, to them. Okay. Or they perceive it as it was given to them? Sorta, probably, as well? Could also apply?
Thus, Aegir was born with a responsibility to humanity. The Seaborn will not compel us to abandon this duty. On the contrary, they add to its weight.
You are indeed the right consul for Milliarium, Madam Consul.
Where is this coming from?
Your temperament. As Aegir, you are patient and kind. But that does not diminish the arrogance in your thinking. That is to say, Aegir's arrogance. I do not believe our conversations about the hole in the barrier, the ruins in the mantle, and even the future of civilization itself are merely small talk to lighten the mood. Just as I do not believe Aegir will rely on passive solutions. After all, isn't Milliarium's department from its home territories a proactive effort to create a new line of defense? So my question is, Madam Consul, what is Aegir's endgame for the Waterway?
I have already told Gladiia Aegir's answer. That which you would call arrogant. You have the right to know as well. There is much on this planet that was not formed naturally, and Aegir does not believe they are unrelated. Be they wonders like the Stargate and the Twin Moons.
She's literally saying that the Twin Moons are... So that was not a suggestion that one of the moons is a construct, but that the moons are superstructures. Okay. Trust your warrior's instinct, Skadi. Remember? Whoosh, pow, thud. Remember? Whoosh, pow, thud.
Rush in with a whoosh, knock them down with a pow, and finish them with a thud. I remember.
That was so cute. That was so cute. Holy shit.